Hi everybody, this is Christy. I am the Intimate Warrior. I thank you so much for stopping by, and as always, I send you love. In this video, I want to share one of my stories. And why am I deciding to do that today? Although it is not really that time frame, I believe I have, about a month to go from the moment that this story has actually taken place. It's in my memory and I wanted to share it with you because it was very impactful. What I did 3 years ago towards the end of September was about selflessness, faith, trust, and love. And that was the beginning of it. Actually expressed my true heart. For those of you who have followed me, you know that it has been about 3 years. And September the 14th is going to be my actual 3rd year anniversary. That day, and let me tell you my story, that day, I ended up performing what is called Ho'oponopono. For those of you who come and do some work with me, one-on-one sessions, I often ask that you perform Ho'oponopono. But I also ask for you to take it a little further than just expressing it within your mind and in your heart. I ask that you write letters to yourself and then to those who you really know in your mind and heart. Those that you feel have either wronged you or that you have wronged, and write a letter. Not to be given. Only for your own safekeeping, so that you can have something kind of in stone. That is your action of selflessness. You know, we can verbalize all we want, but when we're still, especially living within that limited mindset, what we speak about can be full of lies. But our actions can prove otherwise. And when we are actually writing down, in my hand, it's actually writing in the air here, when you're writing down how we feel, how honest we are about whatever it is that we actually feel that someone did to us. What you think someone did to you is completely different from what their perspective is of that experience. And what others think that you've done to them is completely different from your perspective. So your letters should be very honest and from your heart, but also full of love. And if you ever need help with that type of lettering, please reach out to me, and I can help you with that, kind of explain it a little bit further. You can always reach me through email. And please, if I don't respond within 24 hours or so, please give me some time. I do have a full schedule here with responsibilities other than for myself and for what I choose to do here online. But I will always get back to you as soon as I can. Please be patient. And if you also are interested in a one-on-one session with me, please again reach out via email. And my email is within the description. Please don't use what YouTube has linked to my account. I no longer actually check that email. I have an additional one called the Intimate Warrior at gmail.com, or the Intimate Warrior 23 I don't know. Anyway, it's written down. So what I ended up doing and why I did it. No, let me see. I was opening to faith. So I decided to perform the Ho'oponopono. Mostly verbalizing, looking at myself and facing myself in the mirror and apologizing to myself first. And then I was like, well, how am I going to express this to those other people in my lives? Other than just here saying it verbally. I'm a writer, so I love writing. And although that moment, and from after my auto accident, I've had a very difficult time getting word to paper. I have been a writer since I was a small child. Writing and drawing has always been my true passion. I got away from it because my mind wasn't working any longer. I was diagnosed with dementia, brought on by trauma and medications. So that's part of my story there. I forgot. I went through a phase there. I tried to homeschool my son. My dementia and confusion got so difficult. I would, and here I am, remembering my past today. I cried so many days trying to teach my son something. I couldn't read what was on the paper. I couldn't get it into my head to verbalize it and therefore teach my son. I knew then I had to send my son back to school. And, the reason why I took him out of school was for his own personal health as well. What I knew was within his best interest, and he deserved to have a proper education. And, of course, if I could redo everything. Anyway, we can't redo it. We can't redo the past. And excuse me for going all over the place here and talking. I'm talking to myself while I'm talking to you. So I knew then my mind was really getting bad, really bad, terrible. The doctors also revoked my driver's license because I was getting lost due to my dementia, but of course my physical conditions were also limiting myself. So for like 4 to 5 years, I didn't have a driver's license. And so, that's just telling you how bad my memory became. And even after I got my license back, it still didn't get any better than that. There were some times when I was like, who am I? What is my name really? Forgetting Christy. It's really traumatic on the individual. And you begin to think that you are really dying. Chronic pain or even if you're dealing with a mental issue, it can make you feel like you're dying. So, as I was sitting here on September the 14th, my husband, I think, was gone or something, or out working in the field, cutting the field, and I began writing the letters. Began with myself again, and I shifted to those who I knew was in my household, who I deal with on a daily basis, which meant my husband and my son, and then I moved to my mom. These are the 4 main people that I deal with and that I really wanted to heal things with. And as I began to write all of these letters, and especially with my husband's letter here, with my husband, because we have had a history, I tell you. We have been married, we will be married 19 years, and I've been saying 19 years for 20 years. I've been saying, so for instance, I've been saying 20 years this year, but it's actually been 19. So I've been adding an extra year to our anniversary. But anyway, as I was writing his letter, something began to work with me. Because I was being honest. I was putting something on paper that I was unwilling to really face on my own had I not wrote it down and actually could see how I have truly been feeling. I was witnessing my own internal trauma on paper as I was writing it. And I did like 3 pages worth of it. Then I moved to my son and my mother, and something began to work even further in me. So September 14th is just a few weeks prior to my husband's and I anniversary. And I knew that we were going on vacation. We were going to the beach for the week, and I wanted to prove faith, improve love, improve forgiveness. It takes an act of love and of faith to prove that you are walking the walk of faith and of love. You have to have action to manifest anything. You have to have the thought, you have to have the emotion, and you have to act on it. Those three things. And if you truly believe in what you are doing and representing, the result is far greater. You manifest greatness. And that's why there's a disconnection when it comes from what you think and how we speak. Lies can come out of everywhere because the heart knows truly the truth of what we are expressing. We can lie all we want. There's a disconnection between mind and heart, which leads us to lie, be untruthful, undoubtful, not know what we want, and etc., etc. So as I was sitting here and I did those letters and I put that thought in my head, I'm going to give this to my husband while we were on vacation. I knew that this could be the worst decision of my life. I knew that although my heart was guiding me to give this to him, allow him to hear or read how I have been feeling for the last, and I guess then would have been 16 or 17 years. 16 years, I guess, yes, 16 years. It would have been 16 years by then that we were married, that I really was lying the entire time. And I really felt terrible the entire time, that I blamed him for everything the entire time, etc., etc., whatever it was. That it could really hurt him, shatter him, and that our marriage could be destroyed. But faith and love is always working together. That I knew that if I gave it to him out of the goodness of my heart, not to cause harm, but to heal both of us, that the greatest thing is going to come out of it. Even if it meant a divorce, it was still going to be great. Because I know I made that conscious choice and I wasn't going to back down, a beautiful thing took place that day. And I began to write a book. And no, I haven't finished it yet. I put it on hold. And it is about what I thought was going to be about coming into faith. And it's not going to end that way. But anyway, that's why I'm telling you this story, is that and my heart is blooming right now. My heart is blooming more. The more that you decide to choose love, no matter the consequences, no matter if it doesn't work out in your favor, when you choose love, something greater takes place. My mind, that's the point of the story. My memory was given back to me. I wrote 10 pages of my story. 10 pages. In a few hours. I ran outside to tell my husband that I was writing. And I was writing a book. And it was a miracle. I said, I haven't written. He knew. I said, my mind, something happened, a miracle. And I can remember and I can write again. That was the day that I decided to really become of service. If God was so gracious to heal me, I didn't understand, though, that because I was being selfless and forgiving, that's what selfless is. And that's what love is, to forgive and forget without conditions. I was proving something to God. And the reward was a gift, far greater than I could have ever expected. God could have given me anything else. He chose to give me my mind back, to remember, and to move forward into something greater. Well, let's see. Do you want to hear about what happened after I gave my husband the letter? Well, I'm going to tell you. I was still drinking at that moment. A little bit, not like I had in my previously, because I have, yes, I've had experiences with drugs. And after my auto accident, I eventually took on, of course, the painkillers, and I would take more than required because it wasn't working and I wasn't feeling good enough. And then eventually I added alcohol to lots of different types of painkillers and relaxers and sleeping pills. So I had a great cocktail that made me feel good. So I was still kind of drinking in the beginning, not a lot, and I definitely was not taking medication by this time any longer. I think I stopped taking my painkillers probably 2 years prior to this point, but I was still drinking because I had lots of anxiety, especially when it came to being around other people, and I didn't feel like I fit in to society, and so I still was covering up. But again, not so much, not every day, every night, just on more of a social occasion. And so, yeah, when my husband and I went out to our vacation, we ended up, having a few beers and drinking, and I said, well, I'm going to give you our letter here, hon. And he read it, and it was okay that night. Things were okay. He didn't say much. He said thank you, actually. But the next night, we went out again and had a little bit more to drink that night and came back to the hotel, and things just progressed. And he really told me how upset he was about the letter and how I, blamed him for everything. And I'm like, well, that was the point of the letter, to tell you what I was thinking and feeling our entire marriage. And I wanted to apologize for it. And now it's up to you whether or not you want to forgive me for what I thought was happening, because I wasn't feeling good about myself back then. I was so disconnected and just wanted to blame anyone. And of course, it naturally flows to the person who is closest to us. My husband ended up out of the blue, and this really has nothing to do, well, it does, but my husband brought something up out of the blue, and it was, had nothing to do with my letter or what we were talking about the wrestling with God in the Bible. And I said, I don't know about that, Joe. I don't even know that story, because I wasn't really familiar back then with the Bible either. Although I was growing in faith, I was just learning about it. And so we were okay anyway. We both apologized and told each other we loved each other. So the idea that I had is that perhaps I wouldn't have made it home from our vacation, And I tell you, we have had some major issues in our marriage, and I really wanted to heal that. And when I came back home, the first thing I did was look in the Bible to see what my husband was talking about with the wrestling with God. And so it took me back to a reminder of, because I had an aha moment. And I realized the very moment that God was shaking me, which is the same time frame that my husband also mentioned when we were discussing my letter. He brought it up and said that it was a very painful time for him. The accusations, and it felt like, it was just a terrible time for both of us. And I realized that was the moment that my life began to change. And that was also the time that my son left home. That was my wrestling with God. My son has been, my everything. I was alone when I was pregnant with him. And of course, I shouldn't have gotten pregnant, from what I realized many years later. I was told through my marriage, when we were trying to conceive, that I carry the MTHFR gene that kills the embryo because of the folic acid. So from knowing that and having a son, I knew that a greater power now was at work. But of course, my son, regardless of the situation or knowing that genetic disorder that I was told I had, is a miracle anyway. So my son and I felt, he was my everything. I was a single mom. He was born premature. I did everything I could that a young mother could do to really take care of her child. And he was there with me throughout after my auto accident. So him staying home because he was sick all the time, and me having to be confined because I was limited in mobility, we shared this type of bond. And I never thought about, oh my gosh, my son's going to have to leave one day. I wasn't prepared. And it destroyed me. Yet I don't know why. I know why. I was blessed again. And I didn't realize this at the moment, that a miracle was taking place within me. I kept looking out to my hallway, just waiting for my son to come back up the hall, or into the hallway and into the room, every day for like a month. And he never did, of course. But as I kept looking out my doorway, because I was still confined to my chair during my immobility days, my eye would unconsciously drift to my light switch. And unconsciously, it was telling me something. And the ball kept rolling that, well, I'm going to start getting healthy. I am going to get up and move every time I am depressed. Every time I'll think about my son, I'm going to get up and do something. I'm not going to get depressed. After I lost, this is, sometime in the future here, I was able to lose some weight, become a little bit more mobile, stop using the walker. I lost 160 pounds, and I became a Beachbody coach, and I reflected back to that time frame of October when my son left, that what that light switch was telling me unconsciously was to flip the switch. And then it meant stop being so negative and flip it into the opposite of what you are expressing. And then it finally transitioned to be the light. Because when we are living within darkness, we have to do something. we have to make a conscious choice to change the script. An action. In order to have anything greater, we have to make a conscious choice, and then we have to back up that choice with an action. So if you are living within doubt and fear of your path, and you are afraid, let's just use, you're afraid to communicate with the next person, with somebody, because your experiences have always been bad. Somebody's always put you down. You can't take somebody else's perspective. Lack of faith. If you were to say, you know what, this time I'm going to choose to entrust in this individual, whoever it may be, and I'm going to go ahead and talk to them and express how I'm feeling and get their perspective, and I'm going to take their perspective as critique, whether it's good or bad. You begin the process of opening up your heart a little bit further, because you have now shown faith in a process, and this is just a tiny way that you can show faith. You have to demonstrate that you are full of faith by walking it. Action. In order to move your feet, you must walk and lead yourself. Do it yourself. I proved faith when I gave that letter to my husband. When my mind was telling me this is going to be the worst thing you've ever done, Christy, my heart said, do it, and all will be well. I listened to my soul, my higher self, and to God when I gave him that letter. And ever since then, every day, beautiful things take place. Magic happens because I am choosing love continuously. It hasn't been easy, and I fight an internal battle. I have fought an internal battle. This year has been the easiest of the years, of course, because as you begin to teach yourself to choose love, it's hard at first because it's so unknown. But as you do it and consistently do it without fear of what is going to take place afterwards, it gets easier. And it's like breathing. In and out. Love. In and out. Faith. In and out. Trust. In and out. Freedom. So I just wanted to share this story with you because it is coming up. 3 years is coming up. The anniversary of my freedom is coming up, and the anniversary of my marriage is coming up. And I know because I have chosen faith and love in all situations. My life is full of grace. And I hope that yours is as well. This is Christy. Much love, health, and healing your way. I am bringing purpose to your life. Take care.